Hi, this is Megan with Beadaholique, and today I'm going to show you how to make a wire-wrapped gemstone bracelet link. So this is what the link looks like, and this is what the bracelet looks like. You can see it's just these links with jump rings and a clasp there. And I'm going to show you how to do this clasp, the hook and eye clasp, or I guess it's a hook and bar clasp, in another video. For this one, I'm going to show you how to make the link, the basic component of the bracelet. So what you're going to need is a bead, and I'm using a lentil shaped bead. You don't have to use a gemstone. You could use any lentil shaped bead, but it should be like a pillow bead. They call them a few different things. Basically, it's like a round, mostly flat disc, and that's the shape that I'm going to use for this. So you could probably also use an oval. I don't see why you couldn't. And then I'm using craft wire in two different sizes. I have an 18 gauge and I have a 24 gauge. So the tools that I'm going to use are a pair of nice sharp flush cutters, a pair of nylon jaw pliers, a pair of round nose pliers, and then I also have a pair of regular chain nose pliers. You want to be careful that you don't ding up your wire and mark it up with these. You want to use the nylon jaws wherever possible, but every once in a while you need to get a better grip. So I have these also. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I will need to start with 4 lengths of the 18 gauge wire to make the frame of my link. And I want each one to be about 4 inches long. So I'm going to start with one piece though, so that I can straighten it as one piece. So I'm just going to cut one piece that's probably anywhere between 16 inches and a couple of feet. I always use a lot of extra wire when I'm doing wire wrapping, just because I'd rather be safe than sorry. So this is kind of a lot. I'm probably going to go ahead and just cut this in half and do 2 pieces. And when you're going to work with wire, you cut your piece a little longer than you need and use round nose pliers to just put a loop in the end. Hold on to that loop, take your nylon jaw pliers and straighten your wire out. It can be a real headache to work with wire as it is if you're not used to it, but working with wire that's not straightened out is twice as hard. And then just do that with your second piece. Okay, then you're going to just cut off the loop, and be careful when you cut thicker wire, the pieces can fly. So you might want to wear eye protection and just hold on to things and be careful. Now I'm going to cut these 2 pieces in half to give me the 4 pieces that I want to work with. And next I'm going to cut a piece of 24 gauge wire, and I want 2 pieces that are about 4 or 5 inches long. So then I'm going to take my 4 pieces of the 18 gauge wire, and you're going to pair them. You need 2 pairs. So I'm just trying to make sure that they're as straight as possible so that they line up nicely. Then you're going to take one set of 2 wires, hold it together near the middle, take your 24 gauge wire and very firmly wrap your 24 gauge wire around your 18 gauge wire, and wrap it around 6 or 7 times. You want your wraps to be very snug and completely close together, all the way up against each other, so there's no spaces this way in the wire. So get it around there a good amount of times. I would say probably 6 or 7, and then you bring the excess to the back. Use your flush cutters to cut those wires. And use the flat side, of course, against your piece so that those pieces aren't sharp. And then you'll use your nylon jaw pliers to push those ends down and give it a good squeeze to flatten it. And then you can also squeeze it together, flatten it, and then it will move a little, move it to the middle. And then you're just going to repeat that with the second pair. Okay, so then you take your two little bundles here, and what you have is you have the wire that's going to go around the edge of the bead, and the wire that's going to go across the face of the bead is what each pair is. So first, you want to make sure that your smaller wire wrap is right in the middle. Take the top wire and just gently, with your finger here in the middle, bend these in. And you want to make sure that your clean edge of your wire wraps is on the outside so that your edges are on the inside. So this wires here have to go around and go up and do some wrapping around. So you probably want to make them, I think I said about 4. You might want to go 5 inches on those because I think I maybe have more here, 5 or 6 even. You want to have some extra. I don't think that was quite 4 inches. Okay, then you're going to take your fingers and just bend this wire in. Give yourself a nice curve on that. And as you can see, this whole thing is not exact. Every piece is not exactly the same. That's what I kind of like. It gives it a handcrafted kind of a look. So you don't have to be super worried about every single piece looking identical. Just make them all look close enough and pretty. And bend all these in. And then it needs to have a little bit of space this way to go on top of the bead. So hold the join and just kind of bend it up a little. Okay. And then you're going to need to shape the bottom wire to go around the edge of the bead. And this is a little tricky to hold on to, but just hold it the best you can. Since it's totally round, it doesn't matter where the holes are. If you're using an oval, you'll need to make sure your holes stay parallel to the wire. Hold that onto the side and just gently bend around on both sides. And then make sure it fits in there right. You want your wire wraps to sit against the edge. You don't want it to sit flat like this. So you can check it out, see how it's looking. Do the other side. Again, since it's symmetrical, I can just do it the same way. If you're doing something that's not, you might need to flip it over. And make sure that you go under your top wire when you bend it. You don't want to start with it all tangled up. They will move out of your way if you need to move them. And if they've moved off center, go ahead and move it back to the middle. If it's moved a little bit. Okay. Now we're going to attach our frame to our bead. Go ahead and cut yourself a nice piece of the 24 gauge wire. I'd start with about 1 foot. Again, it is extra, but you don't want to run out and have to start over. And you put that wire right through the hole in the bead. Then you're going to take one of your frame pieces. Go ahead and move that top part out of your way for right now. Okay, hold your frame piece on so that the wire wrapping is directly in the center of the side. And then you're going to wrap this wire around and pull it nice and tight, back and up. And then you want to make sure that you pull the slack down so that this doesn't have extra space here to keep it nice and snug. Pull it down, and then you're going to wrap around the bottom one as well and pull that tight. And it will move back and forth this way at this point. That's fine. You just want to make sure it's tight this way. Okay. Then you're going to take the other side and you're going to put it behind the first, and you want to bring the top legs up so that they don't get in the way. And you're going to put these ones in between the two prongs here. So it should be like that. And the two on top should be above, on top of the other ones. Okay, so this one is to the back. And again, it can be kind of tricky, but try to keep the bent legs out of the way. And try to keep the wire wrap bundle right in the center of the side there. Okay, now you're gonna take your wire. Make sure you're holding it right up against the other one there so that there's not a gap this way. And you're gonna wrap right around that, just like you did before. And right around like that. Okay. So now that's gonna hold it on, but not still, so just be careful that it doesn't move around a lot. It can be quite a challenge if you're new to wire wrapping to hold everything still. Now you're going to turn your piece. Try to hold this stuff still. And you're going to adjust the bend on your top frame pieces so that they meet right in the middle, next to where your wire's coming out of the bead. And you don't want them to cross over, you want them to just meet flush. Now hold these wire wraps where you want them to sit. Make sure that this is where you want that to be at the end here. And then you're going to take the wire that's been wrapped around these pieces, pull it really snug. Like I said, you don't want that to cross over, so if it does, go ahead and just give it a tweak. And then very snugly wrap around about 6 or 7 times. And then you're just going to flip it and do the same thing on this side. So adjust the bend. You don't want them to separate at the ends because then it won't stay snug. And right around the end there, a good 6 or 7 times. Okay, now trim off the extra. And then use your nylon jaw pliers to push that down and make sure it's nice and tight. Okay. make sure it's all in there. Now you're going to trim the ends of your wire. This one's already about where you want it. You want these pieces here to be about 1 inch from where they cross. And then you want these end pieces here to be also about 1 inch. Don't let them be too short, maybe just over. You can always trim them down later, but you can't add any back, so. Okay, we're gonna take a pair of round nose pliers, and for the base here, it's gonna go below these pieces here. So you're gonna do these pieces first. Go to the bottom of your round nose pliers and pinch there so that it's going to give you a large loop. And just rotate, rotate, and make one large loop. And then you can flatten it gently with your round nose pliers, or you can use your nylon jaws. And you're just going to repeat that for all 4 of those. And you're going to gently separate the end wires here so that you can get your pliers in. Now you're going to start with the tip, and you're going to work the other way. So these ones went out towards the end of the link. These ones are going to roll in towards the link. Start at the very tip, and you're not going to make a circle, you're going to make a spiral. So don't close it all the way. Just keep moving the tip of your pliers down and bending it down around. So you're just going to move your pliers down before your circle is closed, and it will make a spiral. And like I said, this should go on top of the ones from underneath. Okay, now we can adjust the ones on the bottom. They should stick out a little bit, but not like the whole link is sticking out from behind there. So you should just kind of have them peek out. And it's okay to start rolling it a second time, like have it overlap here, that's fine. So it should just kind of peek out like that. And then the last thing I want to do is I want this setting to kind of curve down a little bit so that it sets nice and flat against your wrist when you're wearing it as a bracelet. It should be slightly curved. So all I'm going to do is put my fingers at the back of the bead and my thumbs on the front here and just gently push. That's all I'm going to do. And it will also help the setting sit around the bead instead of on top of it. And that's how you make this wire wrapped bracelet link.